Our scroll that we'll be reading today is Patarak, the way, our sacred feminine. A little bit about the author. Ha Munzal Nathar Amanuba Reak Patah Zeti Shel Pa Hanutu, known to us as His Excellency Malachi Kabina York Okran. Kabina means born on Tuesday. Shel Pa Hanutu means from the Amun priesthood. So now it's time for these secrets to be secreted. And the secretions are your very genetics. It's a genetic doctrine. So may you go as far as your genetics would take you. May you reach your potential. And one of Baba's many hats is the transmitter. So to transmit, much like your neurotransmitter. And what does the neurotransmitters do? They spark a message intercellularly. So that's Baba to us, to stimulate and to awaken those dormant genes. So that's why he is the transmitter. And may each one teach one, just like your nervous system. So let's start reading the revelations to the Nuwaubians. Patarak, the way. Chapter 30, our sacred feminine. 1. Lo, oh blessed is the true Nuwaubian male for his female. Let's just stop right there. So, based on our first line, we're going to take a moment to acknowledge our blessed mother, Mary Ava Akron, who is the opener for our opener, because without her, there would be no him. So we acknowledge our sacred feminine and our holy mother, Mary, who sits in Sirius. And we acknowledge all of our sacred feminine. We acknowledge all the mothers. So let's continue reading. So for yourself, accept yourself. For yourself, accept your mother as well, who supports you. And heal your family line. So 1, lo, oh blessed is the true Nuwaubian male for his female. 2, oh blessed is the true Nuwaubian man for his woman. 3, oh blessed is the true Nuwaubian husband for his wife. 4, oh blessed is the true Nuwaubian son for his mother. 5, oh blessed is the true Nuwaubian brother for his sister. 6, oh blessed is the true Nuwaubian father for his mother. 7, oh blessed is the true Nuwaubian Nesut for his Nesutet. 8, oh blessed is the true Nuwaubian masculine for the true Nuwaubian feminine. 9, the sacred feminine holds us all for 9 cycles of 3 cycles in her holy temple, her womb the sacred garden of triple darkness. 10, she has blessed you all with birth, breath, and life. 11, she is mother of all living and all that's lived. 12, she was the first, and she will be the last. 13, she is the body in which houses the spirit, into whom descended your masculine soul, the link to oversoul. All right. So let's just take a moment. We're going to picture our Nathar text, nuts, and you're going to see housed in her body all the souls, all the formations. What you see housed in her body is get represents what manifests or solidifies. Or within her body, you see many gaps, all right, or many stars. So that's the mother of all living, which is what I link to our oversoul, because as you know, once you tap into the center of one circle, you got into the center of all circles. And we acknowledge the circle as our mother and other circle of existence. We all go through our changes and cycles inside of our mother's wombs. And in nature itself, that's what's happening in nature. So you're the same as nature. So honor your mothers. 13, she is the body in which houses the spirit, into whom descended your masculine soul, the link to oversoul. 14, soul, also you hear the word sun, right? So sun. That spark. So that spark is masculine, but it's manifested through the feminine. It's designed in her. All right. So 14. Who is the true sacred feminine? And what does it mean? Who is the true sacred feminine? And what does it mean? 15. Out of she comes he. Out of woman comes man. Out of female comes male. Out of lady comes lad. But not girl and boy, and not masculine and feminine. For feminine is the secret of the number 9. All right. Wu-nuwaupu itself is considered feminine, Bible says. 16. For she is mathematics, the science of space and time in figures called numbers. 17. To be born in 9 months is to be mathematically born, making you a mathematician. Supreme mathematics, mother, matter. 18. The true matriarch, the sacred feminine matriarchy, from whom the mitochondrial DNA is only found. All right. So we know that all living life has mitochondrial DNA, but it's only found taken from our mothers. So all of us sitting in this room are all representing our mothers, all right, when it comes to mitochondrial. 19. She as mother provided for you while in her womb. 20. She as mother fed you your first provisions. Once you exodosed the sacred garden, all right? So she fed you from her very immune system. What she ate, you ate. What she breathed in, you breathed in. All right. There was a science, I was reading like a science article of how like babies are conceived. So, you know, you take 23 chromosomes from the male, 23 chromosomes from the female, you put together 46 chromosome being if the child's healthy. So now you have a complete being that actually the very particles that the woman is breathing in is actually, she's taking from her environment and actually shaping that child and using the particles for that child. I thought that was very interesting. And that's why a lot of women, their noses shift during pregnancy. A lot of times the pregnancy nose is a thing. And then also breathing. Sometimes it might get a little stuffed and things like that. Because you're going through a filter. So it's very important, the quality of air and the things that she's consuming, whether what she's eating, what she's seeing, what she's actually taking in through her nervous system, feeling, because that's all being imparted on what she's carrying in herself. All right. And Bobby explained also when a woman's very stressed out, it could, that affects the hormones, which essentially affects the hormones of the baby. And that's how many children are born, sometimes a male with a female body, a female in a male body. It has something to do a lot of the times with what was going on with that woman during the time of her pregnancy. So then, not only that, she's providing you with all her intakes, and then also when you exit her sacred garden, all right, she's continues to provide for you with her very milk, right? So 20, she as mother fed you your first provisions once you exodus the sacred garden. 21, and she as your mother is your goddess. 22, when asked, who is your God, Allah, Yahweh, Dios, Theos, by whatever language, dialect, tone, you give the supreme being. You always say, my creator. 23, and who really is your creator? Your mother created you in her garden of delight, provider of your first light delights. All right. There was another book I studied a long time ago, and it was talking about the psychological effects of being pregnant and what you could impart on that child, your very thoughts imprint on that child. So they were showing how, like, for example, let's just say you may have a physical deformity that runs in a family. When the work, if to combat that, it was recommended that you put an image up of what you're constantly looking at, because what you're admiring and thinking about a lot, and especially admiring, you can sometimes reconfigure that child, all right, based on the very thoughts, because we know that thoughts vibrate now, all right. Science has proven that. So now you can vibrate the DNA and reconfigure it. So that's why sometimes you can have two children with the same mother and father, and depending on the thoughts at the time, specifically, most importantly, in the woman, can alter that child's nature and even how that child manifests. So, by her very imagination, that's why, like, if a woman sometimes, she can be admiring a whole different man that's not even related to the child, and then you would swear that that's the child's father. You do a DNA test, and it's actually a different guy. It's a guy she never even, slept with. So that emotional connection and thinking about him can sometimes even impact the very features of that child she's carrying. All right. So these are actual things that can happen to the genetics. So it's our mother, all right, from her intakes, her thoughts, and all that. All right. So 23, and who really is your creator? Your mother created you in her garden of delight, provider of your first light delight. 24, and she shaped you. 25, and she formed you. 26, and she fashioned you. 27, and she molded you. 28, she created you in her womb as you are. All right. 29, she used her mitochondrial DNA to give you your masculine nature. All right. How does that even make sense? So I explained before, like, okay, let's say you got a Y chromosome. All right. You know how much energy is needed for that Y chromosome to move from point A to point B, and needs quite a bit. So actually, even on Y chromosomes, every cell in your body is still being attached with the mitochondria that he inherited from his mother. So actually, he's getting the energy and the directions and instructions. It's actually coming from your mitochondrial DNA. All right. So that's why when, let's say as a male, you have a Y chromosome that's going to impregnate that egg. All right. The embryo. It's still moving on the directions of the mitochondria. So you're still following even your mother's instructions. And then the mitochondria, because most of the mitochondria inside of a sperm cell is actually in the till. All right. But you know that once the sperm enters the egg, it loses most of its mitochondria, and whatever that's left over, it gets reabsorbed. It goes dormant. And the new mitochondria inside of that egg, even though it passed the X chromosome, is now going to follow the new instructions from the new mitochondria. So the new mother, all right, is going to take over mitochondria, no matter if it's getting X or Y. All right. So she used her mitochondrial DNA to give you your masculine nature. All right. Because that mitochondrial DNA can tell you how to use. It gives a direction, you get the DNA, but it tells the DNA what to do. All right. So we see across the board, men and women, we need healing. All right. And we need to heal that mitochondrial DNA. So she used her mitochondrial DNA to give you your masculine nature. 30. She made you man in her image, woman. 31. She gave you all your body parts. 32. She gave you all flesh and blood. 33. She gave male their gender. 34. She gave you your glands. All right, so discovered in the last 10 to 15 years, within the last 10 years, they actually found that they used to teach us in school that when a man ejaculated, he has millions of sperm, and that the sperm are in a race. And based on whichever one is fittest, it gets to the egg first. But they have since found biologists have since found that's not really how it really works. is that the egg actually sends chemicals, and it can choose the sperm that it wants, and it will send chemicals to give that sperm more energy to swim faster. And the sperm that it doesn't want, it will send chemicals to send it somewhere else to kill it, to confuse it, or to slow it down. All right. And then you'll see that sometimes you'll see a sperm make it to the egg first, but the sperm that came after makes it in. So it's not always the one who reaches it first, because it has to still break through the membrane. And that means that the egg has to allow it. All right. Because pregnancy isn't always guaranteed to happen if the woman doesn't allow it. So there's still a certain allowing or choosing that's happening. So they used to say that gender was dependent on the male, but they're finding out it's actually really dependent on the female more than they thought. 31, she gave you all your body parts. 32, she gave you all flesh and blood. 3, she gave male their gender. 34, she gave you your glands. 35, she gave you your master gland, the brain. 36, she is your creator. 37, religion and religious ignorance can ask you to believe their lies. Yet, facts are facts, and truth is truth. 38. All right. Facts are facts, and truth is truth. So when you're looking to confirm, like people, when they, our culture, our facts is not confirmed by going to another scroll. Like, well, how do I know that's true? Well, it says it in that scroll. The reality is that nature itself confirms us. So Bible says that we're learning again to speak the language of nature, right? That we've been disconnected as natural nature, all right? And our true confirmations is really all around us, all right? In the very patterns of life, all right? And the patterns of life you can see reinforces our culture. And why is it a certain way, all right? So facts are facts, truth is truth. No matter what philosophies people have, all right, the facts are stating that your mother's your creator. When you see how the body's actually put together, what hormones are doing, all right, how creation is still being created, all right, within 9 months, all right, and the importance of her being in a stable mind, because you can have 2 beautiful genetics. I've seen that too. That was explained as well. You can have 2 great genetics, beautiful genetic here, and then it's being put together. But if something is off and she's not in the right state of mind, you can cause problems to those good genetics. And then at the same time, you can have a compromised genetic and a compromised genetic, but you raise a mentality. You can actually reshape the genetics by those thoughts. All right. And the woman has the most power because life is coming through her. All right. So she is actually the creator more than me. I've realized no matter what religious ignorance we've been following. So 37, religion and religious ignorance can ask you to believe their lies, yet facts are facts and truth is truth. 38, what is the true answer to the question of who is your God, and your creator? 39, it is the sacred feminine. 40, it is the woman. 41, it is the female. 42, now there is more to being born a female. 43, there is more to being called a woman, lady, wife, daughter, sister, and mother. 44, she must act the part she plays in life as feminine. 45, she must act the part she plays in life as respected woman, lady, young lady, and good girl, to uphold the nobility of the sacred feminine. All right. So that was just explained before, because the fact that you can have 2 good genetics, but bad habits and bad thinking can unwrap that very genetic as well. So you see what she has the power to rebuild and to create life. That means if she's not in the right frame, she has the power also to unravel life. All right. So it's more than just being born a female. all right, and having a vagina between your legs. It's about acting the part, being that part, living up to, all right, your potential. 46. She must be a real she, female in all ways. 47. She must walk like a female, feminine. Let's stop there. All right. How you walk can really rewrite your DNA too. Did you know by slouching, that takes you into another state? And sagging your pants, I was looking also the psychology of sagging your pants. It actually reshapes the way people stand. And they start to actually walk more like a primate. So I would say, look at how you'll have to kind of slouch and hold your legs a certain way, so your pants don't fall, and it makes your spine elongate. It makes your legs curl and shorten, and it makes you kind of walk a little funny. All right, then you start thinking funny. All right, so you go from human to primate just by simply how you're walking and carrying yourself. All right. So you could imagine, all right, that would also apply to being a sacred feminine. So she must walk like a female, feminine. How we carry ourselves really does reshape what we think about ourselves and what we think about life. 48. She must talk like a female, feminine. All right, talk like a female, feminine. All right. That's the importance. I understand the power of how we talk. That's why we start before we read with a chant, because that calms us down. When somebody's talking to you, it feels much different than when they talk to you. All right. So how we talk to people, it stimulates a different part of their hormones. All right. So talk like a female, because there's power in speech. Feminine. 49. She must move like a female, feminine. She must act like a female, feminine. 51. She is the ultimate female, feminine. 52. She is grace. 53. She is charm. 54. She is refined. 55. She is favor. 56. She is honor. 57. She is attractive. 58. She is soft. 59. She is gentle. 60. She is never rough. 61. She is never loud or boisterous. 62. She is never impolite. 63. She is never rude. 64. She is always clean, inside out. She is always clean, inside and out. 65. She always smells fresh and clean. 66. She bathes more than once per day. 67. She keeps her teeth clean and her breath fresh at all times. All right, let's stop there. All right. How do you feel about yourself when you're not caring for yourself? All right. If you're not keeping up with yourself, when you're smelling bad, all right, it does shift. It shifts your connection with yourself and also the environment and how we affect the environment. All right. So we're not just upholding our standards, we're upholding the standards of life. All right. I like to call the women the quality control. All right. So she's the quality control. All right. So 68. She is never evil or mean or violent. 69. She keeps her feet well groomed. 70. She keeps her outer garments clean and neat. 71. She never overexposes her body parts to none save the male she has given herself to by law. 72. She flirts for the reason of attraction for life, not for the pleasures of night and day relationship. 73. She flirts. It's her nature. Yet she is never cheap or loose or whore, not a wu-nuwaupu woman or a girl. So let's just stop there. All right. So everything that has been, this goal is not shared to condemn anybody. All right. It just is to show the trauma that generationally that we're healing from. All right. That's been imposed on our people. All right. For generations. All right. So this is part of healing that trauma. All right. And going back to elevating ourselves so we can elevate the race again. All right. And, being flirtatious, just being happy about life. It doesn't mean you have to welcome everybody. All right. As being cheap. All right. So let me read that again. 72. She works for the reason of attraction for life, not for pleasures of nights and day relationship. 73. She flirts. It's her nature. Yet she is never cheap or noose or a whore, not a wu-nuwaupu woman or girl. All right. So our value is not about attracting mates. A lot of us have been trained to feel so. All right. And it's like, no, flirt with life itself. All right. Not for attention as far as getting us into trouble. All right. So that's something to think about. 74. Her dwelling is always clean and fresh. 75. She does not move from relationship to relationship. That is not the way of a sacred feminine. All right. And when you understand the way your anatomy is put together and why, now you see why it's not recommended. And if we do things according to what's conducive for nature, that's a reason why we don't do that. All right. So she does not move from relationship to relationship. That is not the way of a sacred feminine. 76. She can lose her divinity by her own actions and deeds if she disrespects herself. All others have the same right to disrespect her. 77. She does not lie, steal, cheat, or kill Nuwaubians. 78. She is not drunk or drinks strong drinks of alcohol. 79. She never uses drugs for recreational purposes. 80. She never smokes tobacco or herbs for recreational purposes. 81. She is never intoxicated in any way. She keeps her mind divine at all times. 82. She does not overeat. 83. She does not undereat. 84. She knows to wait the full term after childbirth before having sexual intercourse. 85. She gives her womb time to return to its proper passions of cycles and circles. 86. She does not indulge in sexual intercourse after her 6th month of pregnancy. 87. She knows to let nature work in her womb between the 6th and 9th month. 88. She knows the importance of the first weeks of her pregnancy between the 6th and 9th week and the effects it will have on the nature and health of the child. All right. So let's pause there. It might seem like a lot of responsibilities, but as Baba is said, that it's important that we all study anatomy. We all study biology. And a lot of things that we did in ignorance had a negative effect, all right, on ourselves and ultimately on the children, all right? So when you know how you put together, you're more likely to respect it. So let's all take time to study the anatomy, study the biology, the microbiology, all right? The effects that it has in forming children, your hormone biology, how your womb shifts, all right? And the implications it has on the rest of your hormones, all right? And if you don't know the reason, find out the reason. 89. She knows what to eat and what not to eat, as well as what to drink and what not to drink during pregnancy. 90. She knows nature requires her to breastfeed her child And so her body starts producing what the child needs. All right. Another thing that I noticed that in Western culture that they like to make fun of, like women, how we have funny cycles, like we might want to eat pickles and ice cream together or something like that. And it just seems really random. And it's funny, like in other cultures that you'll see that they actually have pregnancy diets and things that is normalized to eat. That's going to be good for the child, good for the baby. And it's not just random things, all right? Because we know that it's having an effect. All right, we have to get back to that. All right. 91. She is the fashioner, the shaper, the maker, and the former, the creator of each person born. And also, I like to interject something else. Like for my mother, I could almost, by the way that I look, my behavior, the way I think, at times I could feel my conception. I'm not exaggerating. And I could sometimes, I could know what my mom was feeling for my dad at the time, you know? And one thing I feel is that she really admired him. And in certain parts of his thinking, his certain humor. And sometimes the way she looked at me, sometimes I could feel like she's really admiring something. At times I could still remember. So it's like even later on, you could feel the nature in which was you can tell by your own nature a lot of the times, the mentality to which your mom had, and different things she might have been doing. You know, you can kind of feel it if you really sit and spend time with yourself. And there's a lot of things that she doesn't necessarily have to say, you know, that I just know. All right. So 91. She is the fashioner, the shaper, the maker, the former, the creator of each person born. 92. She must make beings in her own image with her own likeness. 93. She may shake the flesh and give the spirit, yet not the soul or the mind. 94. Your child may be born a true feminine. 95. Your child may be born a true masculine. 96. Or the 6 to 9 week in the womb, our child, because of chromosomes, may be born a female in a masculine body, or masculine in a female body, a feminine body. 97. That is nature's effect by your own system at that time points. How you are affected during this time point will affect the fluids distribution in your newborn. All right. So it's showing the importance of, I'm just thinking about how we're getting together and making children. The lack of respect I'm seeing that we're having between the two genders. Men are getting with women that they don't even respect, ejaculating inside of her. All right. She's receiving and responding to this lack of love between them. It's going to affect her hormones. All right. It's going to affect the type of hormones and how she distributes, even though she inherited either X or Y from him. She passes her X on. Depending on what she's going through, all right, it's going to really affect the nature, all right, and the hormones in that child. That's why they have noticed in America, for example, that the estrogen in men are actually a lot higher recently. All right, that's why you see a lot of boys with breasts. They have a fully Y X chromosome, but or you see a shifting. All right, a lot of it has to do with what's going on with the mother. All right. So it's very important she's peaceful and happy during those times and being exposed to the right things. And that's why in another scroll, Bible says that the masculine can serve as her protector while she's going through all those hormonal changes, all right, by hoping to keep her at peace, all right, because it's a very delicate process that can affect, and Baba is now explaining which weeks that the personality is being infected inside the womb. So let's read that again. 96. Or the 6 to 9 week. All right, the 6th to 9th week. So that's about your second month of pregnancy. 6 to 9 weeks. In the womb, our child, because of chromosomes, may be born of feminine and a masculine body, or a masculine and a feminine body. 97. That is nature's effect by your own system at that time point. How you are affected during this time point will affect the fluids distribution into your newborn. 98. Just as what you eat and drink affects the nature of your child, both physically and mentally, so also your state of mind can affect the mental state of your newborn, and will affect them their whole life. Got it? So whatever my mom and dad was going to do, like even like I could feel like I do have a certain arrogance, and it's part of my personality. It's just there, but it's stemming back to like the way my mom at the time, she really was looking up to my father. I can sense it, and it's like I can identify with certain parts of my father, and it's like it might have been a thought that she was having, or because they also had other children. We all have different personalities, but I can just tell what she was thinking and feeling and responding. And they were pretty young. And I think, my father was a little bit of a know-it-all. He still is. And I could tell she really admired him. I really could tell. And she really, and I could tell by, a certain nature that I had, and it's part of my nature. All right. So her mind state, it really affected my mental state and my nature. 99. Who you mix your bodily fluid with affects your DNA. 100. Who you have sexual intercourse with affects your DNA. Their ancestors become your ancestors from 30 to 60. And whoever they mix their DNA becomes part of you and affects your daily life. 101. An evil seed can make you evil and bring evil into your DNA, your genes. Your ancestors will be affected by others. 102. The male you mate with and his DNA becomes part of you, and his family sins becomes your family sins. 103. Who your son marries does not affect your feminine who your son marries does not affect your feminine mitochondrial DNA. 104. Yes, it does affect the female he mixes his seed with. She will overpower his DNA, being she holds the mitochondrial DNA, unless she is one of the lesser gene pools of the mongoloid or caucasoid. Then his genes will transform hers. 105. Choose well who your daughter will bring into your family seed with his familiar spirits. All right. A lot of us, we didn't have that science. All right. We have a boyfriend. All right. And then we do things with them. All right. That's not the father of the child, but their hormones affect our hormones. Now we get pregnant with somebody else, and that's all affecting. All right. So all of that is affecting the family line. All right. So that's why it's important that we get this information into our children's hands. All right. And it's not just about sexism. It's about science and understanding the science in which we're put together. All right. Because a lot of mental, physical disorders and confusion, all right, a lot of it is confused hormones. All right. Or different influences. So choose well who your daughter will bring into your family seed with his familiar spirits. 106. If your daughter chooses to take a mate outside of your gene pool, advise her of what she is about to bring into your ancestral genes. If she still refuses to respect our Negroid ancestors, then she has lost her sacred feminine. She is no longer divine. She is related to you, yet not your family. You have the right to reject her and accept her daughters, for they hold your DNA. Yet her sons only holds the father's father and mother's, the dominant genes. All right. So we understand that we're breaking the link. All right. We're unwriting the DNA. All right. And that's going to be also our spiritual link. All right. So we become related, but not really part of the same divine. So when we say divine, we're talking about that overall link. So then we talk about divine love. All right. Divine feminine. When you say divine feminine, you start picturing the symbol of nuts. You see that all stars are housed in her body. All right. So you think of she holds the key to the collective story. All right. Let's say she starts giving up the key. She stops. What ends up happening? We start to lose access to certain realms. Because if you notice that it's your mitochondrial DNA, because you need your mafkuzet is in your mitochondrial DNA. And that has been unwritten for many of us, and we have to restore that again. So you can start off as a sacred feminine or a divine feminine. Let's just say divine feminine. But you lose that link. All right. Now you don't really have the same access, or you have all these other more distractions to get through. All right. So you could think about it that way. So when you say divine feminine, a good visual to have is our dog nuts. All right. And then you say other circle of existence. A lot of us, we have broken that circle. All right. So let's repeat that. 106. If your daughter chooses to take a mate, to mate with outside your gene pool, advise her of what she is about to bring into your ancestral genes. If she still refuses to respect our Negroid ancestors, then she has lost her sacred feminine. She is no longer divine. She is related to you, yet not your family. You have a right to reject her and accept her daughters, for they hold your DNA. Yet her sons only holds the father's fathers and mothers, the dominant genes. 107. Your son holds your dominant gene as well as his father's, yet cannot pass it on, being he has no mitochondrial DNA. All right. This was one of the first scrolls Baba talked about mitochondrial DNA. We know that brothers do have mitochondrial DNA. They just don't pass it on. All right. All right. So 107, your son holds your dominant gene as well as his father's, yet cannot pass it on, being he has no mitochondrial DNA. 108. The same for her sons or sons to be born. By her taking on a lesser DNA of another gene pool or race not Negroid, or with complete Negroid DNA. All right. So now let's say it's explaining why you might reject her and her sons, but you still welcome the daughters back, because the reality is that the daughter still has that mitochondrial DNA that can be turned back on. All right. Because if she has a daughter, if she doesn't have any daughters, then we also learn that's the end of that mitochondrial line, that bloodline. All right, because our daughters is the ones that carries the bloodline because of the mitochondrial gene. 108. The same for her sons or sons to be born by her taking on the lesser DNA of another gene pool or race not Negroid or with complete Negroid DNA. 109. Always protect your genes, your DNA, your family line, your bloodline. All right, so our mothers are actually our protectors. All right. 110, as far as the bloodline. So 110. Never forget, feminine is the link to the spirit world And the masculine is the link to the soul. 111. Once done, it's done. 112. Know this, Nuwaupians, that beauty is not in the eye of the beholder. 113. That is another lie taught by evil race of Canaanites, Ha-Hefekasutu, the liars of liars. 114. Beauty has been shaped in their favor because they force their media on your children. 115. They decide what is pretty. 116. They decide what is cute. 117. They decide what is beautiful. 118. They decide who is attractive. 119. They decide who is handsome in appearance. 120. They decide for you what is. 121. They decide for you who is. 122. They say this shape is nice and that shape is not. 123. They say this color is good, light, and this color is bad, dark or darkness, and lightness. 124. They say to be slim is the right shape of a woman. They say to be blonde-furred or half-furred, called straight heel, is the right texture of a woman. It's not hair if all other creatures on earth call it fur, if they have the same texture as animal fur. Then they have fur, not hair. 125. They say it's good hair, like the monkey or the dog or the bear or the goats. 126. They say light-colored eyes are pretty eyes. Light skin tone is red bone. If Negroid, brown. If Indian, red if American Indian, black if African, and beautifully light or white or pink if European. It is albino if Negroid or mulatto if mixed. And then there are sub-races who come from mixing with one of the root races, being Negroids, Mongoloids, or Caucasoids. Yet, only the Caucasoid will claim their race. If you are mixed, you're not one of them. You lost their beauty, and you are not pretty. 127. They propagate their image all over the world, as you see on TV, on DVD, on cinema, on billboards. Everywhere you look all day, you see them selling their image of beauty world over. 128. Their dress code, their music, their food, their religion, their image of God as them, their image of Son of God as them, their image of Mother of God as them, their image of angels as them, their image of prophets as them, their image of saints as them, their image of caliphs as them. 129. But the image of the devil is dark, the dark one, prince of darkness, the image of Negroids, Africans. 130. And you have accepted this false image of evil and good, dark and light. 131. It's lies. It's their own lies. They are not white. They are leprous. They have the curse of leprosy in many degrees. Right? So you have various degrees of leprosy. Many of us carry it to various degrees because of being mixed. All right, which affects the nervous system, which affects the skin. All right, which affects your immune system. All right. So there's various degrees of it. All right. So they are not white. They are leprosy. They are leprous. They have the curse of leprosy in many degrees. 132. All the way into other races and even our own Negro race by mixing their cursed seed of leprosy into ours by rape and racial mixing to destroy our DNA and spiritual link to our ancestors. All right? So just think about that. Sometimes we had a natural knowingness. I'm thinking about when our families were more intact. You had the same spirit force going through the same family. more of an agreement of the DNA. Now you have within one person genetic wars and family genetic wars. All right. This is what we're inviting into our family, especially when we're mixing with lesser races. When I say lesser races, not to put anyone down, but we have a more complete DNA. So you're unwrapping your sanity. All right. So the dysfunction in our families has a lot to do with the various spirit forces that's running through our family. Our physical families are being affected by that spiritual dynamic, which is really a genetics dynamic. All right. And what was common sense before, we don't even know how to relate to our children anymore. All right. And is that our children? Is that our child anymore? Is that someone else's child? Or you have brothers and sisters that are very spiritually different with different spiritual agendas. All right. All doing their own thing and family wars. All right. Think of the genetic wars. All right. So, and it doesn't seem like this is not common sense. This is going to affect all of us, and we can't see that because we lost that divine link. All right. And our connection to our ancestors. So 132, I want to read that again. All the way into other races and even our own Negro race by mixing their cursed seed of leprosy into ours by rape and racial mixing to destroy our DNA and spiritual link to our ancestors. 133, they taught you to hate self and kind. 134, they taught you to hate your own image. 135, they taught you to hate your own hair. 136, they taught you to hate your dark skin. 137, they taught you to hate your African body shape. 138, they taught you to hide it, to hide your shape, right? To perm your hair, dye your hair color, put on hats, headdress, cover your skin tone with light makeup or skin bleach, to draw on faces, to thin your features. 139, they taught you to try and talk like them, walk like them, dress like them, act like them. They made you strippers and prostitutes and whores like them. 140, they remade you into their image and after their likeness. 141, and made your men want to only, and made your men want you only as one of them. Careful Canaanites, looking as much like the Caucasoid female as you can. All right. I've seen that, you know. It's funny. One of my cousins, he's funny. He's a really cool guy. But I've noticed that like when his girlfriend, you know, she has kind of curlier type of hair, but it's kind of straight at the same time. And he doesn't like when she wears it natural. He wants her to wear it straight, you know. And you know, training on men to admire us where we look more like a Caucasian. All right. So 141, and made your men want you only as one of them. Kafu Canaanites, looking as much like the Caucasoid female as you can. 142, and if you can't, you feel you're not pretty, you're not beautiful. All right. Some of us are somewhere in the middle, so you can morph your if you wear your hair like this, you might look more Caucasian. But for those of us who we have very African features, are made to feel very unbeautiful. All right. So you're not pretty. And I'm just thinking about that. I'm thinking about Whoopi Goldberg. When I look back at pictures of her, I was like, wow, she really was a beautiful woman. And I just remember as a child, she used to be the butt of all the jokes. That's why you look like Whoopi Goldberg. And also, who's another one? How like automatically if somebody was like the most beautiful Black girl, it was always somebody who looks mixed. And when you look at all the old Cosby shows, you know, the older sisters, they're biracial. or coming to America where he wanted to find his African queen. It's like the dark sister was the bad sister, the light sister was the good sister, and she was considered beautiful, you know. And this has been put into our psychology, and even our men admire, you know, the admire, you know, our mixed types more, you know, if they're being honest, you know. So it's something that's been programmed into the genes that needs healing. All right. So think about the psychological attack that our women are going through while they're pregnant with our children. Imagine that self-hate is forming our next generation. All right. So let's read that again. 141. And made your men want you only as one of them. Kafur, Canaanites, looking as much like the Caucasoid female as you can. 142. And if you can't, you feel not pretty, not beautiful. 143. They made your men love their women, chase their women. And now you Negroid women chase their Caucasoid men. You are out of your own mind. All right. We're sick. All right. 144. As Hebrews and Israelites, they teach the woman to cover your head and your hair, hide your body shape, and say their deity said to do this. 145. As Christians and Rastafarians, they teach the women when you come to church or temple or the cathedral to cover your head and to hide your hair. 146. As Muslims, Moorish, Nation of Islam, they teach the woman to cover yourself, hide your to cover herself, her face, and her hair. 147. It is always cover up, shut up in the back, hide your beauty for women and our women. Follow and cover up with hats and head coverings. 148. In our own ancient culture, which you can see on the walls of Egypt even today, in the papyrus, in the tombs, you see we had no need to cover our woman's beauty. We had no rape. It was not a shame to be seen. It was not all about lust and being lustful. 149. How does a God deity and Allah create a woman's beauty, her body shape, her hair off her? A woman is beautiful body. A woman's beautiful body. That's what it's supposed to say. A woman's beautiful body. That's how she created herself. Why would she be commanded to cover her beauty by a male deity who created her that way? 150. This is the mind of a man that fears. He and others like him cannot control their lust passions. 151. Not the actions of a divine being that see the creation as children. 152. God doesn't think in lust, sex, and passion. That is man who ordered women to cover up or go to hell. Beat them, stone them, kill them. 153. No deity tells the woman to get in the back of the mosque. You can't chant the Quran out loud. You can't lead men in prayer. Those are the works of men. These are commandments of weak men, frightened men, and jealous men. 154. There is no such thing as a bad-looking person. 155. There is no such thing as an ugly woman born that way. 156. There is no such thing as a physically unpleasing female born that way. 157. There is no such thing as a physically repulsive woman born that way. Notice that Bob is saying born that way because there are many things that we do to ourselves that make us hideous. All right. At the various surgeries and when we're destroying nature's natural creation. All right. But there's no such thing as an ugly person born that way. All right. 158. You can have an accident, a deformity that can render a person deformed or born deformed. 159. Yes, the creators have made all naturally born healthy and beautiful. All right. So if you're born deformed, that's a different thing. All right. If something happens to you, it's a different thing. If you've abused yourself, that's a different thing. All right. But if you were born natural and healthy, then that's beautiful. All right. I'm imagining you have a nose that works. Natural nature allows you to breathe unobstructed. That's a beautiful thing. All right. Now, if you're born and your nose is not functioning the way it does and it looks deformed, that would be unattractive. All right. But somebody had to tell you that your body that works perfectly fine is ugly. 160. If you are on the planet Earth where nature placed you, then you look like those who created with you. All right. So if you're born on Earth where nature placed you, then you look like those there created you. 161. If you're amongst your own race and or tribe, you will be with those who look like you. That is how our Mother Nature works. 161. In Africa, you may have many body shapes. You have many face shapes. You have many skin tones. You have many heights. You have many forms of beautiful women, as you have flowers. 163. You find on earth many colors, many shapes, many sizes of flowers done by nature. Each has its own beauty, as also with humans, as with animals and birds and fish, all done by Mother Nature. 164. Some have been crossbred and changed nature's plan. 165. The same with human beings. Some have been crossbred, mixed, and created subraces or changed nature's plan. 166. But each has its own beauties amongst its own. 167. You have been programmed by one race, who itself is a subrace, in many shapes and sizes. 168. Some with red fur and green eyes. 169. Some with yellow fur and blue eyes. 170. Some with brown fur and brown eyes. 171. Some with dark fur and gray eyes. 172. Some with pink skin, others with spotted skin, while there are others with transparent skin. 173. The Caucasoid race is in fact the colored race, or race of people of many colors. And this is because of the disease of leprosy that is being a leper as recorded in their Bible. Leviticus chapter 13, Quran chapter 20, verse 102. Blue eyes, their own records of their own race in their own Bible. In Genesis chapter 9, verses 25. 175. Yet, in their own race, to them, there is beauty. To each his own. 175. Another lie is beauty is only skin deep. That is not true, because beauty comes from inside the person. Beauty is more than how you look on the outside looks, or on the outer body looks, but more so how your inner person in. All right. So just think about that when you say beauty is only skin deep. All right. Besides your behavior being part of what makes you beautiful, your genes. All right. I don't look the way that I do randomly. It's coming from something deep inside of me. And that's called my genetics. So my genetics determines a lot about me. So when people say, oh, it doesn't matter, we all bleed red. Okay, when you say that, you can't just randomly get a blood transfusion, because that person's blood could kill you, where that other person's blood can be good for you. So you have different blood types. All right. So when they say, oh, it's all the same inside, what's manifesting outside is actually coming from inside in the first place. So, um, so that's another thing, that it's not just a random thing. All right. So everything is a cause and effect. All right. And as an animist, that's something we pay attention to. So animism is not just about, okay, this is a random effect. Animism makes you go behind the nine ball. And when you say behind the nine ball, you're looking to see, well, what's the history? How did that thing become what it is? What's the story behind it? What purpose does this thing exist for? How does it relate to other things around it? All right. When you start going into ontology, you're looking about how this science relates to this other science. All right. So if you change one thing about it, you're going to have a whole different configuration. All right. So it's not just a random thing. So when you realize that the way you put together isn't random, you're going to appreciate you're going to appreciate everything that brought you there thus far if you're a natural being. So we see the dangers of breaking that link. All right. You lose your connection to your divine spark, and you don't know why you have this feature, and you're less likely to appreciate it. All right. So 175, another lie is beauty is only skin deep. That is not true, because beauty comes from inside the person. Beauty is more than how your outer body looks, but more how your inner person is. 176. And in Africa, called Negro land, whichever tribe or clan, you are one family. 177. You were taken by other races to their lands or lands they claim. All right. So you were taken to other lands of other races, or lands that they had taken over and claimed. Once there, they programmed you to worship their image of God as them, or prophets as them, or saints as them. 178. They replaced your image or beauty with the image of them. 179. And over time, you transformed to want to look like the very people who raped, killed, and kidnapped you from Africa. 180. In time, you accepted their way of life. You converted to their religions of Judaism, Abrahamism, Mosesism, Paulism, Jesusism, Islamism, Mohammedanism, Hinduism, Buddhism, or Satanism. 181. You accepted a deity in their image as your own and rejected your ancestors. 182. You kill for them, fight for them, and entertain them. 183. You sleep with them. You crossbreed with them. You take on the curse of leprosy, their diseases, and their germs, their sickness. All right. In very microbiology. Another thing, I went to the museum like last year and the year before. I was just visiting science museum a lot, and I was learning a lot about microbiology. And your microbiology, which you can exchange with a person just from a kiss, and it affects us in so many ways. It affects us. It affects the way we think. So what we're eating, but also who we're exchanging fluids with, can change the very course, can change your cravings, can change what you gravitate to. It can change the way you process information. All right. So microbiology is very, very important. All right. How you digest food, how you operate with your other hormones is affected by microbiology. So think about just microbiology for the very genes itself that you're passing on. So you sleep with them, you crossbreed with them, you take on the curse of leprosy, their diseases, and their germs, their sickness. 184. You in time lose your very soul to them. 185. You work for them. 186. You claim, I am not African. I am this or I am that. 187. You look at your own African family now that you're mixed and crossbred, and you say, I am not one of them. Look at me. Do I look African? 188. You are mixed. You now have them in you, but they don't accept you. They reject you. No matter how much you do to please them or be like them, they don't accept you as one of them. 189. You can put on a uniform and protect them, fight wars, get wounded for them, yet and still you're not accepted by them as one of them, and that is a fact. 190. They kill your ancestors, enslave them, and to this very day, they still hate you and hate you more when they see you don't want to be like them. 191. They hate you more when they see you're dressed like an African and you're speaking your own tongue, listening to your own music, eating your own food, marrying your own African family in Africa. 192. They hate you more when you start to see African people as yourself and Africans as beautiful as yourself. 193. You don't need them. They need you. They have regressive genes and must mix with others or they will fade out of existence. 194. So, Nuwaupuans, become the sacred feminine. 195. The lady of ladies. 196. The woman of women. 197. The female of females. 198. The mother of all mothers, because all mothers of all other races come from your mother's mitochondrial DNA. In your motherland, Africa, you are the first and you will be the last. 199. You must teach the young Nuwaupuan female to act the part they play in life. Mother of civilization, goddess of the universe, out of whom all was born. 200. You must teach the young Nuwaupuan female. You must teach the young Nuwaupuan feminine as soon as nature says you're a creator, when her body speaks to her by her menstruation. 201. You must teach the young Nuwaupuan female to protect her sacred garden, her womb. All right? A lot of us learn this after the fact, all right? But it's about us bringing up another generation, all right? So we're teaching them who they are while they're young, all right? And as soon as they go into that womanhood is coming, we tell them as well everything they need to know, all right? Instead of telling them after the fact, all right? So why? So that she can protect her sacred garden, her womb, all right? 202. You must teach the young Nuwaupuan feminine the importance of her womb, her genes, her DNA, her being the keeper of our family line. 203. You must teach the young Nuwaupuan feminine who she is, a goddess, not a mere woman or female, not a sex object or a sexual toy. You must teach not to let men dump his genes into her divine body. 204. You must teach the young Nuwaupuan feminine to walk like a lady, to talk like a lady, to move like a lady. 205. She must know how to dance, sing, and dress. 206. She must know what it means to be the goddess. All right. So now the importance of knowing how to sing, dance, and dress. All right. Being able to, a lot of us have pent up the importance of moving your body as a woman and moving your body in rhythm. That helps to re-regulate your hormones. It does a lot more for us in so many dimensions. And the importance of our tone. One thing that I noticed that irritated me the most, and later on I understood, I kind of got over it, but what irritated me the most was my mom yelling. That I didn't like. She starts yelling um, it does something because your mom does have your mother's voice, if she's using it or misusing it, that has the ability not just to shape her hormones, but also the reality around us. And I just remember like me thinking of my mom the other day, it just make resentment, right? So, knowing how to sing, all right. The chanting is very good for me because it helped also to help me rebreathe. All right. And then also be more mindful of my own voice. And then also by talking correctly, I start to feel, um, especially if I'm mindfully talking, sometimes after a long time of talking, I feel vibrations all in my body. All right. And, and it's actually very healing at times. So, um, so this is why, going back into the sciences of who we are. All right. And of course, how to dress because we do. I remember there's this one girl that I used to work with, and I just thought she was one of the most beautiful. She was so beautiful, I thought. And I used to just be happy when I see her come to work. And I used to just be smiling, like, where's that girl at? And she used to just always dress so nice. And she actually, I felt like she helped the morale. Like, it was more inspiring to be there, even for me. And I'm not saying I was attracted to her in that type of way, but she did bring a morale to the space. And it was like, wow, she really enjoys her existence. That's really what she gave off. And she dressed nice, and she dressed nice for herself. Like she was very proud of. She took pride in who she was, and it showed. And I feel like she just brought a certain morale. So whenever she was there, I was just smiling, and like the day was gonna be good. So, um, so I'm just thinking about that. So when you see your mom looking good and feeling good about herself, it's different than when you see us struggling, and downtrodden, and we don't have time to, so knowing how to dress. All that is very healing to be around, especially if it's your mother. All right. So she must know how to sing, how to dance and dress. 206. She must know what it means to be the goddess. 207. She must know her body from head to toe, fingertip to fingertip. 208. She must know how to clean herself inside out and outside in. 209. She must know how to cook, how to sew, and how to weave. 210. She must know how to please and keep her future male partner. 211. She must know sexual pleasures, how to perform the sacred art of sex and pleasure. 212. She must not settle for less than the best in a man, a, a good, happy life. 213. She must know how to take care of her children. 214. She must know she is not the slave of a man and will not accept abuse or being poor. All right. Another thing, in our another Pantarak, being poor and being subjected to poverty is reasons that is justified for divorce. In our culture, we're not supposed to tolerate that. So 214, she must know she is not the slave of a man and will not accept abuse or being poor. 215, she will not live below her standards. 216, she will not sleep with or have any kind of sexual contact with a male not her legal partner. 217, a consort is not a wife or husband. It means being with a person, an associate, someone who keeps your company, right? So somebody calling you a consort, that doesn't mean anything. That just means y'all keep each other's company, all right? That's the person you associate with, all right? So we don't settle for being a consort, all right? If that's who you're going to sleep with. 218. She will never be any man's consort, only his legal wife. 219. A wife. A woman married to a man. 220. She will never be any man's concubine. 221. A concubine is a woman a man is living with. A wife, but never legally married, is concubinage. All right. So if they don't marry you, they just live together with you. That's called a concubine. And moving forward, we're not going to partake in that. All right. 222. She will never be any boy's girlfriend. She may be friends with a respectable Nuwaupuan boy that her family approves, yet she is a Nuwaupuan girl and always demands respect. They are friends, not lovers or sexual partners in any way. 223. These are the ways of wu-nuwaupu. These are the ways of wu-nuwaupu. 224. Good and decent females never travel alone. Never travel alone. Okay, let me read that again. 224. Good and decent females never travel alone. All right. And that concludes our scroll. All right. So we see there's many things that we have tolerated for generations and we partake in, and it's time for us to raise the standards. All right. Because we're not just doing the standards individualistically. It's not just for the individual. It's for our future. And we understand now the implications of all of these decisions that it has had on our generations. All right. What our mothers were doing, what they were subjected to. All right. And how it affected the formation of that child, the mentality of that child. All right. So whatever we're subjecting the mother to, we're actually subjecting the race to. And that's why the ultimate racism is actually sexism. Because once you control the sex, you have the ability to control the future of that race. All right. So the floor is open. Anybody can unmute, share what you think, any questions that you might have, points that you want to share, maybe something that you're working through in your mind. Feel free. All right. And I'd like to hear from the Zamaltats, how do you feel about hearing this? And then also the brothers hearing about this, about the sacred feminine, how do you feel about it as well? All right. What does it make you think about? All right. So I think I'm going to call on some of us. Let's see. Who do I want to call on? All right. Rahubat. I'm going to probably end up calling on everybody. I'm going to call on Zamar Atum Kofi.
Rahubat Sanotat.
Rahubat.
Rahubat. What do I think of the sacred feminine? That's the way. And I think the conditions of these way we lived over thousands of years, there are no shortcuts. So we have to learn to discipline ourselves to work on some emotions, because you can't live in a 9-ether with 6-ether excuses in it. But it's a tough way to put the woman back to on this official place, so everything can come in line again in nature. But this with the sacred feminine also to start and the consciousness, get the consciousness back by fixing all those genes in her that mother puts in her, and the way of looking and thinking and behavior in it. When we look these days on the internet and on all those movies, and then you see all kinds of behaviors where our goddesses are exposing themselves and affecting each other in the mind, and that is something we have to be aware of, and not promoting these things anymore. So I know that sometimes I read with some other people these scrolls also on the Friday, and but also when you speak about these things, also in the Secret Feminine, the Gospel of Yanun, then you will get how do you call it in English? They are not agreeing with it, because you always say, how is it possible in these times, and this and that and this, and so always excuses, finding for some excuses. But there's no other way, and you can. That's what I say. You can mix you can mix these ways of thinking with the way, and we have to go back to the higher standards, and the portals are open for that. So you can do it or you can do it. Tis your business, tis your gene, tis your ancestral line. But so I fully agree with this. And also for the men, you have to sacrifice your old way of thinking and looking to the feminine. So you won't be pleased anymore. You have to work on your own inner thinking and your own inner feeling and your emotions, because you can't go in with one foot and leave the other behind. So you have to fully go in the whole new way of helping the feminine and act like a man for the feminine. So that's how I see it. And with that being said, can you help me to understand the piece of the woman links to the spirit, the man links to the soul? Because in the soul for spirit, you also read some things about it, but sometimes it's just like I understand it, and maybe a few days later I don't understand it anymore. So I see before also in the soul, spirit about above, controlling forces, manipulate, male, and below, force of natures, motive, nourish, nurture is female. So you see clearly that the men are from above, the women are here, the portal to this dimension. But what is her connection to only the spirit and the man to soul? Can you maybe bring it in other words so I can put it together and understand it this time?
Right, right. Um, I was thinking about that. It's funny that you said that. Sometimes you'll feel like you understand something and then later on you won't. And I feel like at times I have those moments of clarity. Like it's like I know exactly what it is, and I have such a pristine moment of clarity. And later on, I'm like, all right, I have to rethink that again.
Yeah.
But what was I thinking before? I can't even remember. Sometimes you'll forget that those. Um, but I'll do my best um to say what I think about that. Anything else? Just that what you were saying.
Yeah, this is the only thing. The whole scroll is clear. Um, I read it before, and it's a new times going in, and we have to work on that to put our way of life, our beings, where we stand above things and live in peace with everything. But we have to do the work ourselves, and not with those manipulating other forces that are in us and around us. We have to become the goddess and gods for ourselves again. So I totally agree with everything I read, and you can't how do you call it? You can't discuss what the master teacher is going to give us again. Sometimes it is you get it motivates you, but sometimes you have to check on yourself and think, for yeah, there's no other way. You have to yeah, go with the flow, work on yourself, or left behind. So simple is it. These are the times ways are splitting. Yeah, you can choose to go left, choose to go right. It's your call.
Right, right. All right. So I'm just gonna ask you to mute and unmute when you want to talk again. This because it makes this distortion. All right. So about like soul and spirit. So when somebody says, "Oh, that's mean natured" or "mean spirited," you never hear somebody say, "Oh, that's mean souled." Why'd you do that? That was mean souled. They'll say that's mean spirited. So when we're hearing the woman in spirit, we're talking about the very nature of that being, all right? And we have the ability to shape nature into what it's gonna be, right? And so let's just say me and this brother, we decide to have a child together. I can maximize those genetics, and maximize the nature out of that, or I can minimize it, you know. So the woman is the gateway for that spirit, all right, or the very way that nature brings itself forth. Uh, and it was funny that you asked about soul, like how male being soul. I was thinking about Baba too, and I had some clear thoughts. So it's funny, like when you said that sometimes you have a clear thought, but then it made sense. And then maybe a few days later, you're rethinking all over again. I had such a clear thought about soul when it comes to Baba and also male. And like a thought of Baba being the soul provider. And there was a song that I was thinking about that I was listening to by Mary J. Blige, and it's called Beautiful. And how the male has the ability uh, at times to heal those emotions. And when I hear soul, I'm hearing like the ba, all right, or the emotion, the emotional body. And so it's a very vague, I'm answering a very vague way because that's the way I'm seeing it right now. But I was getting all those thoughts about, and a lot of times it's easier to assess what's going on with the mentality when you look at at somebody's son, because I feel like the son a lot of the times acts out the emotions of the mother, the program of the mother you see in the emotions. And I'm even thinking about how Baba connects to his mother and the compassion he feels for the race. Um, there has to be a lot of soul connection to his mother, you know. Uh, and it says a lot about her emotional state, her program. So that's where my mind is going. It's a very vague answer. But if anybody else would like to comment on man being soul and woman being spirit, feel free. And I'm also thinking also about spirit, how naturally a lot of times nature takes over for the woman. Like for example, a woman doesn't have to think about breastfeeding. As long as her body is not too broken down, her body makes hormones that makes her bond with the child. All right. Her body makes hormones that make her naturally nurture. Like it's automatic, you know, that connection, that's spiritual, and also naturally. Uh, and then also nature lets her know that she's a mother. There could be a lot of men that they don't know they have children. Like, uh, he may not know he has a child because there's so much that's going into the formation of nature that he's actually not part of. So I'm thinking about all that when it comes to saying woman is spirit and man is soul. But feel free anybody else to comment on that. Streamline if you're more articulate and share anything about that. All right. So we can come back to that. I remember Bible also talking about a man being the soul provider as well. And also I'm thinking about that is actually what happens when a man goes with another race. So let's say Nagaru man, he gets with a Caucasoid woman. It's actually said that the man could actually pass the soul to the woman. That the woman actually gains a soul or he loses one. Uh unless he's already linked with a Nagaru woman to keep him in that soul connection. So how they can share in that soul, or he can actually give a soul as well. So he'll actually sacrifice his soul, and that woman now will have a soul in her family. I remember Bob explaining that as well. So I think that's all connected. Um,
Question, a question. Um, does it can it uh, can it have to do with that the woman is raising you and nurturing you and creates you on this planet where you live, where you do all things what the spirit can do, and uh, when you go out of this body, then the soul
Well,
comes back to.
it goes back to ether. But you know what? There's a chant that kind of addresses the question too.
Yeah.
Good chant. So let me read this chant. This chant is Tapalo of Asu, Papush Anji. Alright? It's free him saying. And it says, open skill one. I mean in English. I'm gonna read it in English. Alright. O ancient ones, goddess, you all from whom birthed our ancestors and our families, from whom fashioned the soul. All right. So you still see that the soul is still being fashioned. All right. From whom were spirits, from whom were ether, from whom were flesh and blood. So the soul is still being fashioned. But I'm seeing like how men are created for a reason, you know? So like, for example, Baba, it said that it was his mother's womb that opened the door because before Yanun came to him, Yanun actually went to his mother inside of her womb. And what she was going through, the rejection and just whatever it is, the longing that she had, it opened the door for Yanun to be able to embody in that child, right? And so now Baba, who works on behalf of he's really working on behalf of a feminine mission, if you really think about it. All right. And because he's the answer to what his mother wanted. So when you see across the board the mentalities of how our sons are, it says a lot about what's going on with the women and the because a lot of our sons are being born without that soul connection, without that compassion. All right. Some men they would just go, they would climb the side of a building for their mother. All right. And that's the way our sons were. Like that, they were the divine enforcer. And you're seeing men more and more don't have that, you know. Um, so I'm seeing that as well. Like the son is the one that went uh to the ends of the earth for the mother, you know. So I'm seeing how that's linking to that soul purpose because I think of a soul journey, soul purpose, soul provider. I'm hearing soul a lot. And also like the spark of the sun. And then you can know that suns, which doubles as the name soul. Suns exist in a bigger spectrum for a bigger reason. So I just see having a purpose, something about purpose and soul. And then for us, when we tapping into the soul, we're tapping into the oversoul. We still use our mitochondria to do that because that's where we get access to the soul. And I happen to have a picture. Let me go grab it. This is from one of my friend artists. He's a voodoo practitioner. But it's the sacred mother and child, or the Haru. Um, and that's you see the soul around, and that's the sun. All right, which technically could be a boy or a girl, but the sun. And she manifests her purpose through the sun. And you can see with various passions, right, which could become his life purpose. So I think that has something to do with it because I just think about how Baba tells his story about his story. It includes his mother as the very soul of Yanun. So is she still linked to it? Right.
Thank you so much. I hear everything you say, and I will uh, I will work with it. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a work. And I just think that, a lot of us are not really fully in touch with our souls right now. We having a hard time caring. And the lack of compassion, like we saw our mothers go through less than perfect things. Like even with Baba's story about his mother and how he was born, through an illegitimate uh birth, and still having that sacred love for your mother. That's the soul. That's what brings her back to life. And oh, you know what else I'm thinking about? About the soul. There was this girl that I know. This is a real person that I know. And her hair was spread out. She was very, very masculine. She said she don't care about a lot of stuff. She don't care. And I don't know what the child did to her, but she got pregnant. And whatever the child did, because you know that the child sends information, it recalibrated her DNA. The child had the ability to recalibrate her DNA. Her hair came back full. It recalibrated her hormones. And she's very feminine now. So that child was some type of soul healing for that woman.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So
Okay.
I'm thinking also like after so much trauma, because we're talking about generational trauma, and I'm thinking about mitochondria, what's the name of that scroll? Elixir of Life, that scroll. It talked about how men had the ability, if a man's turned on, like a man doesn't have mitochondria. He doesn't have mafkuzet. Let's mute your mic for 1 second, Zamal. You can unmute just because it makes a distortion. Tower that. So in Mafkuza Elixir of Life, how the man does not pass Mafkuza to children, the woman passes it on, but he can turn her Mafkuza on and pass it on. So let's say hers is off and his is on. My guess is if she's receptive to that, she could be turned back on and he could awaken her family line back, because that's an awakening of the family line. And now she's able to pass that mitochondria. That mafkuzet. She's going to pass mitochondria regardless, but some women have had the mafkuzet to pass. So Baba, for example, he got his mafkuzet from his mother, and that unconditional love, despite, when you really read between the lines and think about her life, she was a young Black woman in the 1940s, born in the 1920s. So you could just imagine between the sexism and racism in America. It would have been probably a pretty hard life. And then just look at the way his stepfather treated Malachi. You get an idea of how the mom was probably being treated. I get the idea that she was probably abused. So then she goes to Africa. That's how she met Baba's biological father, because she was already married to another man. And supposedly she had left him and decided she wanted to go to Africa. And then she went to Africa, and then she just felt, I'm imagining she felt alive with this and probably refreshed, and she's with this African man, and something inside of him was sparked, turn her on. But anyway, she's pregnant, but the family ends up rejecting her. But that soul is already there, and that unconditional love for him to come through such sad circumstances of rejection, and on top of that, by the time she got back to America, Malachi York's father said, "I'll take you back, but and I'll hope you bring the boy over on the strength of you come back to me." But he's not welcome, so he was sent to go live with his aunt, and he suffered with feeling different. He just wanted to be like the rest of his brothers and sisters. And, it's sad because he'd go visit, but then at the end of the day, he has to go back home and away from his family. He talked about, like, this story I'm getting from, he put it in the book, the Akasha Records. He talks about, the hardships he had, the hardships his mother had, but how actually that was the road, because that pain is what brought the caring for his people, and that is what brought that essence of Yanun through. So For the men who could have that compassion for their mothers, they had compassion for life itself. And I can see it restoring the life to the women in their lives. And then bring that water flowing back. So I'm seeing how the man, if he has a soul, because just being a man doesn't mean that you're going to be a soul provider. You could actually shut her mouth cruzero. A lot of these men hate women. A lot of these men, Baba said, they want to be women on the low. And you just see like even when Bobby was addressing the way he was addressing the way we dress, that we need to step up the standards. Look at how fast the men were coming to bash some of the women and the nasty things they had to say just based on how the women are dressing. All right. Something they don't know about. Where's the compassion? All right. Whereas you see Baba being the sole provider, he found us in our worst state and slowly helped to rehabilitate the people. All right. So it's like he said, no, you don't look down on somebody unless you're helping them up. All right. So I'm thinking if you still have the soul, you have that compassion. A lot of us, we don't have the ability to care. And we see a woman she's not at her best, and we take that as an excuse. And that's my invitation to take all the frustrations out on whatever my mom didn't do for me. I'll have somebody to justify this hate that I have. So, first off, do the men still care? Do they feel that protection? Like that guy, he's all he does all day is just draw pictures. Let me show you this other picture. He just draw pictures of women all day. This one is really powerful too. And this is the art piece. And he sees his mom almost like a god. But he's into voodoo. But he wasn't familiar with Wu-Sabat. But I saw his art because he's one of my friends. And it really spoke to me. I was like, wow, this is all in our Wu-Sabat scrolls. So I just told him, like, you should read some of our scrolls. So I gave him a few, and he really liked it. And then I have over here, it's showing below, this is Taoism, but it's showing the link of the spine, the emotions, and the organs, and the energies in the organs. Because you know that our chakras, in Wu-Sabat as well, is also, the seats of our chakras are actually in the organs, in the glands. All right. So you have to study the glands and the organs to rebalance it. And this guy, he just draws. So these are two different things, but I put them side by side. He was shocked because a lot of times he's drawing because of his connection, his soul. He still has connection to the soul. And he doesn't study this. He didn't study Wu-Sabat. But because of the soul, he's doing the same patterns to life. And he's seeing it. So that love that he has for his mom, he's projecting that onto women for life itself. All right, bringing that soul back into the body. And I was like, check this out. And he was shocked. And I said, your picture looks like that. So he gave me a picture. That picture. And then I put this one right by it because I said, do you realize that you're actually depicting the different organs and glands? So being able to turn that woman's glands back on and everything like that. And that passion that men tend to have with their mothers. All right. Because a lot of his subject matter as an artist is always typically about the mother. And it's usually the story about his mother. And he loves his mother. He respects his mother. And it permeates in his life journey. So you could see how he relates to life. And then also how he's going to relate to whatever woman that he's going to be with. So same thing with Baba, for Baba's mission on this planet. It came through because of his mother. So it's like our sons, which is our souls, And I'm just thinking about that other woman because I tried to make the connection and see the patterns in life and see how it relates to what's happening and where I could fit it. And with that woman, she was actually one of my clients because I do like aesthetic work and different things. And she had bad skin, bad attitude, hair falling out, she don't care how she looked, anything like that. And it was like, it was miraculous. Like her pregnancy reformulated, reconfigured, and she just became some, like, it turned something on. I don't know, reshifted something, and everything realigned and reconnected. And I'm just like, wow, something was turned on. So she got with the right man. It was a good match. And he had to feel some type of way about her. That's just what I'm assuming. He must have felt some type of way about her, about life itself. Because if a man, for example, these are two different people. So that's the woman, they don't know each other. But this is the kind of art a man is painting. And this is how he feels about his mother. And so much so that he's intuitively aligning with all the glands and organs. All right. Because I ended up getting this much later, but I was like, something about this. And then also in our scroll, natural ether energy. If you look at this art and then you leave natural ether energy, you realize it's very similar. You look at this art, natural ether energy is very similar. And soul is something that you just have. Some people, they're doing it really from their soul. And that's very healing. So that's the best way that I could think about how that soul and spirit is linking to each other. That
Thank you, Samantha. Thank you.
yes, it's called somebody else. What do you take from the scroll? What question that you might have, or even something I might have said? How you feel about it, or the scroll itself? Feel free to unmute. Call somebody. All right. So I'm gonna call on Zamal Tat and Success Amuntat. What's your thoughts about the scroll? Or in general? All right. We'll come back to you. Zamal Tat Linky. Oh, there you go.
I couldn't connect for like an hour. I literally just got back as we're reading the last, the last sentence. So I missed all of it. My internet was acting up. But I think it's a very interesting topic that relates to women. So I'm not gonna comment on the scroll, like I said, because I was not here from the beginning. So, but I went to a meeting. I think it was last month, to a school that my son goes to. It's a boarding school, and this one particular teacher was addressing the mothers, speaking about how, like, the way that the girls dressed at the school, that they were literally walking around like almost naked. And when the, what do they call them, house parents or boarding house parents try to advise them, then they will turn around and say, you're abusing us, you are body shaming us. And it was so bizarre because I was like, am I watching a movie? Because those are the kinds of words that I have sort of like heard in the movies. And the teacher was just appealing to the parents to please speak to their children, their daughters, and to teach them better. And he was saying how there are so many people that visit the school outside of just, the teachers themselves, and that when they are in their own sort of like boarding rooms, they can do or dress as they please. But the moment they walk out of that space, they need to be decent. And he was saying how when the girls report to their parents, the parents are not even taking the time to call the school to find out what happened. They just call and then they would just go off at the teachers without even giving them, the credit that they are adults and they know what they're talking about. And it was so inspiring and sad at the same time, because I was sitting there listening to this man appealing to parents to parent their daughters better. And it was like there was a woman, and the parents, because they want the girls to be decent, and the parents are just like, our children are free to do whatever they want. So yeah, even though I missed, the scroll, it's very interesting because it's happening everywhere, and there is a need for that decency. But also from what was being said, what I took away from it as well is to always remember that we are always modeling something in our communities, whether we are aware of it or not. It doesn't matter what you do. At the end of the day, there's a little girl and a little boy who is looking at you and they want to be exactly like you. Because at that age, whatever you're doing, if they decide that it's cool, that is who they're going to grow up and be, regardless of whether it's agreeable or disagreeable. So that is something that is always at the back of my mind. And I think this scroll just brought it forward to actually ask myself, what am I modeling? When I walk out of my house, the way that I talk to even children and young people, the way that I engage them, how am I dressed? What does my hair look like? Am I a proudly African woman, or am I trying to be something that I am not? So yeah, that's what I got out of what everyone was talking about towards the end. How it had.
And it's interesting because just over the years, as we read the scrolls and then we have our experiences and then we observe the condition of our people and the whole dynamic to society and how we've been treated and still, it's just like just seeing it so clearly now, how deeply conditioned we've been. And it's like, wow. So just getting a different perspective of what Bob was here to do, like, to clean up the filth, as he put it, made by the West, what I was saying back in the day, but it still applies. It just really overstand the conditioning. And as we heal ourselves, then and have that compassion for ourselves, we can extend that same compassion to others. There's a lot. This scroll went to a lot. Just brought different things to mind. Like, one of the things I thought about was how men are always, a lot of times men are always quick to call a woman masculine, but in here it's so that she gave you your masculinity. Everything comes from her anyway. And then I remember one time Bob said that aggression is a feminine trait. Because when you look in nature at different seasons, the most fierce of a species is the female. So different things come to mind. And I'm just seeing how everything is still happening. And just being grateful to be on the path of even to have the awareness and to really see the layers and the levels. What's also been helpful for me is not just reading the scrolls, but just seeing some others of our race just bringing different levels of awareness that align as well. Like, I love listening to Dr. Umar. Like, I don't care what I say about him. I love him. I love his fire. I love how he gets, because he speaks facts. Like, and just just with us really having that care and that love for ourselves and each other again.
Right.
I didn't hear I said I didn't hear everything that I heard bits and pieces as you were reading as I was moving about. But and even in here it says now I'm at the topic of soul, so many layers to it.
Yeah.
Because in here it says she is the body in which houses the Ka, into whom descended your masculine soul. So I think it's so many layers to that Baba still, has to explain. Really, he said he's explained a lot, but he said we really won't, our comprehension of it is really limited because we're in these physical bodies.
Fine. And I remember Baba also saying that a lot of these lessons are really our children will get. Like we won't really get all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Because we'll be interpreting the message where they'll just be born into it. So it's like, and I'm seeing the main thing is that everything that we're doing is really for the children, is for the future, So this is the house from which everything comes forth. We have to start with ourselves as women, as a sacred feminine. Because even with Baba's story, as y'all know, didn't start with himself, it started with his mother. So his whole soul purpose, what was opened on this planet was because of his mother. So think about us, what we have the ability to bring forth. All right, I'm gonna call on one other person. You know what? Let me call on, actually, I'm gonna call on two people. Because if I call on two people, that's everybody. So, Zamal Kamem still. I think you said something, right? I think you did. All right. Zamal Kosi. What you take away from this scroll?
Robot Moistar. Robot. It's on my title, isn't it?
You sound nice and clear.
Okay, cool. What I got from the school is, well, I don't know, but like even before I got into reading the school from the master teacher, I was, kind of doubtful about certain things I was seeing, and from what the school has been talking about, it was just showing that all this brainwashing we have been going through was really to misalign us, to really destroy us, and being a man, I'll say, and wanting to find solutions, I would look at our elder women, and what was sad was that they were also falling into the traps, wearing wigs, sewing the wigs on their head away for a long time, which will make them even bald sometimes. So I was really, I would say I'm really mad about all these things I was seeing. I would see pregnant women carrying a child, and they will be bleaching the skins with all kind of chemicals. And I kind of saw how it was affecting their child. Their child will come out with skin that I know is not the tool. And it was just hard because there was nothing I could do. And after I came into contact with the scroll from the master teacher, for a long time I got even very mad because I finally I found the answers, and they were still not taking it. So I had to go through and learn kind of digesting that hunger and hoping the best, which is what I'm doing now. I think that the hunger is critical, so I'm just hoping the best will happen for us. And yeah, I think I will the scroll button for me.
So I have for sure in that, you know, and you know, a lot of times we have to embody things, you know, um, so that the children could look up to something else than what is being programmed on all of us. So much brainwashing. So if we start with ourselves and we start upholding better standards, you know, the children have that to look as well, you know. So there's a lot of things I, you know, from reading this scroll, there's a lot of corrections like I'll have to make as well. Like for example, I love traveling and doing things by myself. I really do. But it's like with the state of this planet, there's a reason why that, you know, uh sacred feminine shouldn't be doing that, you know, right now. Um and I could find every excuse why I'll continue. And I, you know, I'm gonna say, yeah, I'm gonna continue. Because, you know, I maintain you know, I work and all these other things. But this is the importance of us now creating an environment so our children don't have to compromise, you know, uh, and we could usher in a better reality for them. For what we can do, we do the best we can. And what we, you know, for us to have also our sons, it starts with the next generation too. Because when you listen to a lot of men talk, there's a lot of anger, but you could tell it's really hurt because of what he watched his mother do or not do. So, you know, for us, educating ourselves and embodying it, we have a generation of sons that appreciate their mothers, that respect their mothers. And then you have a generation of daughters, you know, that respect themselves, and they see their mothers respecting themselves. So, so that we usher in a new reality, even if we don't live everything, you know, in this particular lifestyle, we're ushering the way that our daughters can. That's why we're educating on our daughters as soon as, from the time she's young to the time she's entering her womanhood years. We let her know things from the beginning. You know, a lot of times we learned after the fact, you know. So, and then we're embodying things, and our sons are looking up to us, and they seeing the mothers that love themselves, and it encourages him to love himself, and it makes him proud to be part of that race. And then he protects that race, you know. So, that's why Bible says it's all for the children, you know. So, and us being mindful of the kind of parents we're choosing to procreate with, you know. So as we all become more mindful of what we can do and take power to apply it, you know, we're transforming ourselves one decision at a time, and with in turn transforming the whole race. And that's a multi-generational healing, because we didn't get in this state over one generation. It wasn't one decision I made in this generation. It's just it's decisions that led up to the decisions. And why do I do the things I do now? A lot of the things that have been done before me, you know. So now if I want a different outcome, I have to watch how I walk, watch how I talk, the tone of voice, you know. Do I speak life into the children? Do I, you know, do I carry myself like I care? You know, when I'm looking up to being an adult, I have to be honest. Would I want to be that adult? You know? So when you think that you're interfacing with children, you have to think, am I somebody that I would want a child to be? All right. And a lot of times it's no, because you have these women that are insecure, or men, all right? They have all these, and it's like, you rather be Beyonce. I'm being honest. If I was 12, would I want to be like this woman, or would I want to be Beyonce? And it's like, it depends, so we have to be mindful of that. So walk like we care about ourselves. Talk like we care about ourselves. Present ourselves like we care about ourselves. And I'm not hiding. I'm not ashamed of how I look. I'm not overly covered. I'm not showing too much skin. It's being mindful of the impact that we're having. So, anybody else like to say anything? Yes, Kosi.
Yeah, you cannot talk about something how about this kind of not setting the good example, So I wanted to say toi, yes. So that's that.
Yeah. I'm just thinking, like, when you hear Baba talk about his mom, it's a lot of respect. Like, he respects that woman. And, I'm using this of the artist that I was talking about his art. The way he paints women when his mom is not here anymore. Every painting is like a prayer to his mother, the way he talks about her. And it's like, there's no way that he could be who he is without. And another person that's like that is, you notice a lot of great men, that's doing things not from ego, because there's a lot of great men that did things from ego. When they're doing things for love and compassion for the people, it's usually because they feel very strongly in a positive way for their mothers. And our mothers, as women, we have the power to have our children respect and look up to us once again. A lot of our men are really heartbroken. The first heartbreak is coming from the mother. So we have to turn that around. Another person who speaks so highly of his mother is Fela Kuti. Fela Kuti, he's considered the godfather of Afrobeat, Nigerian musician from the 1970s. And his music was so charged, like, with uplifting of his people, very politically aware, and bringing speaking pride back into the people. But his mother was actually a female advocate, and she was the first woman in Nigeria to drive, because at the time women were not allowed to drive. She was the first woman, and they actually assassinated his mother. They threw her out of the window, soldiers. And at one time, he just wanted to have fun. But when he thinks about his mother, and then he was sparked by also coming in contact with other women that made him more socially aware. When he came to the United States, he said that's when he became more socially aware, and he appreciated what his mother was doing. But that seed was already in him because of his mother. And she was advocating for us giving back the colonial powers and the sacredness of our mothers. So you see the power of how we can rewrite and the quality of children we can have again, So it's like those sons with a very strong soul. It's not happening without the respect of their mothers. All right. And, in Baba, he said that there's no him without her. His story about Yanun had to be in her womb first around the 6 month. Baba explains that until he was born, and then it went into his body. All right. And then came back to him in time, and then he grew and matured. But that seed started with his mother. So we have the power, to rewrite a lot of things and become deities to our sons and daughters again. All right. So what are they fighting for? And you have so many men that are destructive to the race, and so many that are fighting for the race. So you can go back to the condition of what kind of relationship he has with his mother. So what did he see her do? So now we have to realize what our children seeing us do as women. We have to change that. All right, for the better.